And I'm muted. Awesome. I was about as unprepared as the Cardinals felt in the first half of it.
There
All
you
right.
go.
What is up, everyone? It is another Victory Monday. Really glad to be back with Mike Daisy, sports fan. Mike, how the heck are you?
I am good, man. Absolutely good. You know, Victory Monday is always beautiful to wake up to. So I'm doing very good. Very good. 3-0.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those who didn't know, I actually was fortunate to be able to go to the game. Drove down to Jacksonville. I live in Georgia, so went with my son down to Jacksonville. Unfortunately, we did have to leave around halftime. It was crazy hot, and there with my 6-year-old son. And I think my wife would not have been happy if my son had heat stroke. So, but it was still a good experience. And if you haven't seen on my channel, I posted a very brief 17-second video of the Kyler Murray touchdown and all the salty Jaguars fans booing, and a few people apparently reminding him what number was on his jersey, right? Because they were showing him what number one. But it was something. So, man, Victory Monday is a Victory Monday, right? So, can't complain about that. So, hey, I just want to get a couple housekeeping things out of the way. I've got the thing scrolling, the banner scrolling at the bottom. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end of the show. I know some people asked about that. I will, if you want to get a comment in before the Q&A, super chats are a great way to do that. But otherwise, we'll save that for the end after Mike. Mike will be with us for the conversation. Then we'll do the Q&A at the end. But obviously, super chats will get on there. It's a great Monday to talk Cardinals football. So we're going to jump right into it. So we're going to start with something we're probably going to do every week, I think, and that is our studs and duds. So, Mike, as the guest on the channel, who is your first stud?
Yes. All right. Perfect. So let's get started here. My first stud of the this week here has to go to my guy. Byron Murphy. My goodness, I drew a blank there. Byron Murphy, man, he had a showing this last game with 2 interceptions, being one of them that was tipped up from the Jordan Hicks tackle, which is really cool. But the most important one, in my personal opinion, the game changer, which is the pick 6. Amazing. I'm actually very surprised that Trevor Lawrence threw to that guy, because if you took a look at the replay, there was a guy completely open, because I believe Buda Baker even sucked in as well, and he did not, continue to follow. But obviously, rookie mistakes, and ended up working out to our favor. But yes, Byron Murphy is my first stud of the week.
Well, I'll tell you, it seems like the Cardinals community agrees with you, because I put up a poll, player of the game, and the results were overwhelmingly Byron Murphy Jr., and it was not close. So I think you're right on with that one. 85% at the time that I took this poll, and there have been more votes come in, and they've all kind of gone the same way. And yeah, the second one was huge, and I think we need to throw a shout out to JJ Watt, because he put pressure, and you talked about how Lawrence made the wrong read, and that's what happens when you put pressure on a quarterback. They make the wrong reads, especially a rookie quarterback. So JJ Watt was a part of that. And, I think everyone's talking about the pick 6 as well. They should, but that first interception helped stop a drive. They were getting close to the red zone, if not already in the red zone. So yeah, Byron Murphy definitely is the number one stud of the game. And I don't think it's even close. So my next guy is a guy that I think had a really good game and has had a really good season. That's Christian Kirk. Coming into the season, we talked about him being a guy who they might not keep around, after the season. And that's starting to look like, hopefully they do keep him around. And I think, seems like, they played him on the outside early in his career, and they moved him back into the slot where he probably belongs, and he played well. And this is like a long line of early draft picks for the Cardinals that they play in the wrong position, and then they move him back to where they should be playing, like, later. And like Hassan Reddick is lighting it up in Carolina. So hopefully, they figure it out and keep him there. But he's my second, or my first stud in terms of the player that I identified.
I agree, man. Honestly, when it comes down to Christian Kirk, I even went on my own channel and I said, I apologize, Christian Kirk, because, man, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen because, hey, man, we got some contract extensions happening. Kyler Murray needs to get paid. Chandler Jones is in the fringe now. And it's so crazy because, like, coming off the Chandler Jones, 5 sacks the very first game, everybody was like, pay the man, pay the man, pay the man. And now as it comes now, third game, some person on my comments said the one trick, like, you still want to sign him, the one trick pony. And to me, I'm like, I'm not even going to humor the fact to respond back to this individual, but I'm just so baffled. But I'm very excited to see what's going to happen here. Obviously, Kyler Murray is going to be paid, but to see how the cap is going to get moved around between Christian Kirk, Chandler, and Kyler, I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, for sure. So, who's your second stud of the game?
Second stud of the game has to be James freaking Conner. Let me tell you, man, I've been. Chase Edmonds and James Conner, I love the duo, but I want to see a little bit more James Conner. If we can do 60-40, if we can do 55-45, I don't care. I love what James Conner is doing, man. He's got the physicality down that, I haven't seen it in quite some time. And I'm talking about physicality like David Johnson, very first year David Johnson type of stuff. So I love what I've seen out of him. And so far, he had a really good game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 touchdowns, 11 carries, 43 yards. If you take a look at Chase Edmonds, also 11 carries, but 26 yards. So I don't know. I feel like he's finding the holes more. And even if he does it, he fights, man. He keeps churning those legs to get those ugly yards. And I really like James Conner.
Yeah, for sure. And, I feel like you said, maybe, I don't know if it was a tweet or somewhere, you said that Connor's doing what they brought him in to do, with that. And that's absolutely right. They brought him in to be that big bruising back, and it's interesting because I thought, and it's still early, but I thought it would be like a 60-40 split, for Edmonds, but Connor's got 35 carries on the season, and Edmonds has 31. So Connor's has more. So that's now obviously that can still kind of shift as the season goes on, but that's interesting. So so my second stud of the game is AJ Green. So I'm going receivers on both. And, AJ Green has been a nice addition, but a little bit quiet. And he finally had a really good game for the Cardinals, over 100 yards. And that he made that play on that long pass, that underthrown pass by Kyler that otherwise may have been an interception, and that's a big veteran receiver, making a play. So it was nice to see that, now that we're starting to see how things are settling in, I think Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore, those two are going to probably compete for who gets the second most receptions. And AJ Green, some people might even end up being disappointed that he's not been this big, playmaker, but I think he plays a really important role in this offense and playing it well. And I think they've got great balance now with the way those receivers are and the way they're spreading out. So I love it. What were your thoughts on AJ Green?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. I think this is probably his game where we'd love to see it. And honestly, I've always been talking about, we don't want to rely so much on one guy, DeAndre Hopkins, to, make every single play. And obviously he had a rib injury. We don't really know the status, if he was 100%, if he wasn't 100%, but I like what we've seen from the rest of the offense, man. It was spreading the ball everywhere. And that's the type of offense I want to see, where if one guy isn't feeling it, or he has like a, coverage that he can't get separation, everybody's going to pick up the slack. And I've loved what I've seen from AJ Green. If we can get half of that production, man, I've been saying this, the sky's the limit for our offense. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of studs, before we get to our duds, I want to just say hey to all the studs who joined us today real quick. We've got, Campejo, or if I pronounce it wrong, forgive me. We've got Lennon, Wolf Daisy sports fan, always reliable to be here.
Oh yeah.
We've got Mark Jackson, the guy who's here all the time. He's been real active in the Discord. Love having you there, Mark. We've got Connor Kelly talking about Cardinals Packers revenge game. Maybe we'll see. Irving, I I'm not going to even try to butcher your name, but what's up, man? Glad to have you here. Cypher, I wonder if you're asking if I'm your math teacher. No, I am not your math teacher, but if you attend a particular university in Georgia, I might be your sociology teacher because that's what I do for a living, but not your math teacher. So let's see if there's anyone else I missed. Appreciate y'all being here. And then one last thing, one more shout out to the studs, is the studs who are members of my channel. I want to just real quick, I've got the Ring of Honor Hossicle Brand store, and throw in a shout out to Kemi Indolo, who's part of the starting lineup level. So thank you all. Anyway, wanted to throw those shout outs out there. Thank everyone. But we talked about the studs and duds before the show, and we both kind of agreed. There wasn't one single player, but we both agreed who our dud was of this game. And Mike, as the guest on my show, obviously on my channel, I'd like for you to go ahead and tell everyone who was the dud that we agreed on.
Yes, the dud that we agreed on had to be that entire that coverage, that ugly coverage after the 68-yard attempt field goal from Matt Prater. And I've been saying this up and down. My frustration level obviously kind of was like, hey, not so much that Matt Prater didn't make it, but where the heck was the coverage, man? It just was like Swiss cheese there, man. It was frustrating. It was 7-7 with 2 seconds left. Okay, let's go for a field goal. Okay, no worries. But they're leading 13-7. Like, what a deflator going into the to the halftime for Arizona Cardinals. I'm just glad we cleaned it up because I would have been pissed if we lost this game.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mentioned, I was at the game, and I actually was out in the concourse with my son when that happened. Mm-hmm. And I just heard the rah, the cheering and all the fans in the concourse, those who had left early to go get their beers, at the half, just going crazy. And I was like, oh, you know what? Something just happened, and it's not good. So yeah, man. So that coverage, I mean, you let him return that for 109 yards.
Yep.
And people will say, well, that kind of thing happens freakishly, but if you're attempting a 68-yard field goal, that is a possibility. Yep. That could happen. So you need to be prepared, and they weren't, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, that was the biggest. Just want to say hey to some of the folks who are in here. Jumped in G2. Yes, I'm in Georgia. My career brought me to Georgia. I teach at a small university here. So yeah, I live in rural Georgia, a really cool town down here. Otis, good to have you here, man. Simon, always good to have you here. I think we already had mentioned. Shout out to Kelly. Thanks for being here. Arizona Animal, or as I like to call him, Fig Jam. If you don't know what Fig Jam is, look it up. Never short on confidence. All right. But good to have you all here. All right. So we agree on the duds. And I think, we both agree on those duds, or the studs as well. I think we both think all four of those players had a great game. In fact, all four of those players were on my poll, in terms of who I listed. So, the next thing we're going to talk about here is something we've kind of looked at with this, and we were fearful, right? Everyone said this was a trap game coming in, and first half it was looking like a trap game. So did the Cardinals play down to the level of their competition?
Well, I guess I'll start here. I mean, I definitely don't want to take anything away from the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars did a very good job in making sure that our offense, because we had a few 3-and-outs. Now, there was a couple different things where flags kind of, penalties prevented us from continuing and moving the ball down the field. But a little of both. Like I said, it's kind of hard to say like yes, because then you're kind of insulting the Jaguars. But, sometimes when you look at the schedule and you're really saying like, hey, this is a game that we should be winning. You know what I mean? They got a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. This is the type of game that we should win. And we did, 39-19. But that very first half was worrisome, man. And that very first half was like, dang, like what is going on? Is this a repeat of next year? But I'm glad Kyler Murray said what he said. And he said, like, this is the type of game that we would have lost last year. And it's different, man. It seems like we're a different breed. We're adjusting. We're having that, that mentality where you just don't think about it all the time. Just kind of, football is one of those things where like, yeah, you make a mistake, but you got to forget about it real quick. So yes, I do feel like we played to the level of our competition. Yes, I do.
Yeah. And I think G2, who is also in the South here, so in South Carolina, actually, I agree with G2 here. And this is kind of in my first note, on my notes, I have in the first half, yes. but in the second half, the Cardinals dominated. So in that first half, and I actually think it was the offense that played down. The defense played well. In fact, if it weren't for that special teams, botched play, this would have been a 31-13 game. And you're rarely going to completely shut down an offense. It happens sometimes. So they gave up a little bit, but the defense, I think, played reasonably well in the first half. They weren't dominant, but reasonably well. But the offense stalled out a lot in the first half. In fact, it's like they're trying to make me look bad for the things I said, because what I think I said last week is, hey, this offense isn't disappearing like they were last year. That was one of the things I thought I'd seen. And well, they did disappear a little bit, but they still put up 31 while the defense put up 7 of that, or 6 plus 1. So, but the offense was still decent. But in the second half, they played the way we'd expect them to play, both offensively and defensively, against a team that's not a good team right now, right? So, yeah, first half they played down to the level of the competition. Second half they didn't, right? Overall, if you want to be very critical, you'd say, yeah, you know what? Altogether, they did play down, because it's a whole game, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of performance isn't going to win. That kind of performance isn't going to win against the Rams, who are coming up.
And I think that's where my kind of level of frustration is. And I'm glad we got it out of the way against the Jaguars game, and we were able to recover, which is the best thing there. Because last thing you want to do is have going 2-1. And the Rams coming off an amazing win against the former champions, the Buccaneers, because we got a tall task, man. That's going to be a tough matchup, but I'm ready for it. Yeah,
and I want to real quick shout out some of the folks who've jumped in. We've got World Peace, good to have you here. We've got Bruno who jumped in, Cardinals 3-0. Free Matter for the Blind, who I know is on your channel a lot too, in your live streams. Good to have you here. John Redcorn, good to have you here. Calvin, appreciate you. Calvin, the first super chat my channel ever received is Calvin. Nice. So I remember that. So appreciate you being here. And then we got Paul. Hey, so Paul, I get to meet Paul at the game. He has a Cardinals message board forum that he kind of helps run, and I got to meet him and a number of other Cardinals. Went to dinner with him and some folks. Awesome. It was really nice to see him and meet him. So good, glad you made. He lives in Florida, so he didn't have as far to go to get home. But yeah, we made it home. Jordan, thanks for being here. So the next thing we want to talk about is how good is this team really? Right, we're 3-0, but some games that give us pause. Right, so Mike, how good do you think this team really is right now?
Definitely better than last year. Definitely better than last year. We are a team that, in no doubt in my mind, we can be a number 2. Number 2 in the standings of the NFC West, and also a wild card team. As of right now, I'm so very hesitant to put us number 1, because I see the Rams. I'm like, dang, Sean, and not only just the Rams, the Sean McVay, man. 8 straight times, 4 years in a row. We hear it every single time. And unless we break that streak, we're going to keep saying it. I think we are a very good team. I think we've learned from the year 2. I think Kyler Murray has made a dramatic jump from last year to this year now. Yes, he's got 4 interceptions. And I know in my channel, there's a lot of people saying, well, a better decision maker, this and that. And I do agree that to some extent, but he's definitely making the plays that, give you the Patrick Mahomes vibes and that type of stuff. You kind of need to be a little risky. And I do think that that's what he's doing here. But, big shout out to all the wide receivers we have, because they're really, man, they're working and they're doing a very good job. But I do think our team is a playoff caliber team, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this team is definitely better than last year, not only in just going the wins and losses. If you look at some of the things that are going on, the interceptions are, we would like to see Kyler clean that up, and hopefully he will. But he's throwing for more yards. He's on pace for more touchdowns. But more importantly to me, he's distributing the ball more evenly. Yep. Like, one of the biggest criticisms last year was how predictable this offense was, right? Screens and hooks to DeAndre Hopkins, right? Yep. And that was like what it felt like the offense was. And like, if you look at the distribution of his targets, it's like a bunch of guys are 18, 17, 15, 18, like 5 or 6 guys that all have double digits targets already. Now, they need to get Hopkins a little more involved. I think he needs to still be the number one targeted receiver. Yeah. But if defenses can't, focus in on Hopkins because he's spreading it out, that's a really good sign for the offense. So I agree. And then the defense can play elite. I think this team is right now somewhere between the 5th and 10th best team in the NFL. I don't think they're better than the Rams yet. Yeah. And I think you and I we've talked about this before. I think we're both on the same page where I am not willing to pick them to beat the Rams until they show me they can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to, if they win this week against the Rams, depending on how they're playing later in the season, I'll consider picking them. But, I'm going to pick them to lose this week. I want them to win. But in terms of my prediction, because they haven't shown they can beat McVay. So, but I do think like the upside for this team is really good. Like they're tied for the league lead in points scored with like 103. I think they're the only team in the NFL to have 30 or more points every game. And their defense has done a pretty decent job overall. So they both, the offense and defense can both play at an elite level. It's just the consistency we need to see. But I think I agree. They're better than they were last year for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, looking at the stats from Kyler Murray, he's already hit over 1,000 yards receiving. Like that's absolutely nuts, man. Or passing. So 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's crazy, man. And it's really cool to see that type of quarterback is a quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, because we've been through the quarterback, ringer, man. We've seen years and years of Kevin Kolb, Skelton, Max Hall, Leinart, Lindley. Yeah, Lindley. Yeah. I'm gonna call him Lindsay. Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts, and I'm really happy that Kyler Murray is our quarterback, and we have something to look forward to for years and years to come. I have a question for you, if you don't mind, unless you have something else about this.
No, I'm good. Yeah, let's go for it.
Hey, so going into the season, we were told Zaven Collins is going to be number 1, and we're seeing a lot of Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
Now I think for PFF or somebody, that likes to have the percentage and stuff like that, I think Zaven Collins is still playing a good amount, which is cool. But why do you think that we are seeing a lot of Jordan Hicks more than Zaven? Because I think he has more of a favor in terms of percentage than Zaven. Am I wrong?
No, yeah. Hicks has played more snaps. And I actually was looking at Collins' snaps have gone up by 3 every game. He had 22 snaps, 25, and now 28, most recent. And if you look at the defense, I have it up here. Jordan Hicks had 68 snaps this game compared to 28. Jordan Hicks had 61, 59, 68. So he has had more than twice as many. So here's my best guess.
Right.
I think after the draft, Steve Keim came out and said Zaven Collins would be the starter, and Vance Joseph did this. Why you gotta do me like that, Steve? You know, like I think Vance Joseph was like, I'm gonna coach him and I'm gonna play the guys who should be playing. And now Collins has had good, has played well in his limited snaps. And Hicks has actually played reasonably well, especially this last game, but been a little off and on. But I think the whole Collins is going to start was Steve Keim kind of responding to the criticisms about Isaiah Simmons last year, and that Vance Joseph didn't get the memo. You know what I'm saying? And wanted no part of that memo, and is doing what he's coaching the way he sees fit. And that he's trying to bring on, I think, he's bringing Collins along, and I think we will see him get more snaps, as the season goes on. But that's what I think. What do you think?
No, I think you hit that right in the head. Honestly, I think that Steve Keim heard it, and a lot of people that say we don't listen to the outside noise. I think they listen to the outside noise. People were saying back-to-back or linebackers. What are you doing? Stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I was one of those guys. I was very critical about Zaven Collins, and I have shut up and I've given respect to where respect's due. But I do think that it got to him. And I do think that he jumped the gun and he said, well, guys, chill out. He's going to be the starter. No worries. And then that calmed the fire down, because one thing we don't want to see is we don't want to see our first round picks riding the bench again. And it's like, man, well, we need production, and they're always sitting there. So it was kind of frustrating to see. Now, granted, Kyler Murray, he was thrown into the fire, but, it seemed like we've got better from the Josh Rosen era. Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen era, and we kind of went to Kyler, and we've seen better stuff. So I honestly think that's what it is. Steve Keim listened to the noise, and he just talked way before that he probably should have. But Jordan Hicks is one thing that we talked about this earlier too, and in the earlier parts of the fan of the professor, that we feel so bad for Jordan Hicks, because man, he worked so hard to do what he did for us this last offseason, to renegotiate his contract, and then the contract, the Cardinals did him dirty like that. But I'm glad we're still seeing him. But first round pick, I would love to see Zaven.
Yeah, no, I think, and I don't mind the way it's playing out. I think, you don't want Zaven Collins riding the pine, right? You want him in there playing some meaningful snaps, but I like kind of easing him in. My early prediction that Zaven Collins was going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year and make the Pro Bowl is probably not going to happen. But I made those predictions for fun as much as anything. So I'm good with that. And they're not doing the Isaiah Simmons treatment. They're not totally sitting him. They are slowly increasing his snaps. So as long as those snaps keep going up throughout the season, and by the end of the season, he's playing mid to 20s. End of the season, I like to see him between 45 and 55 snaps a game at least. End of the season, I'd like to see him get there. But if they keep doing that, and then I'm good with it, right?
Well, you know how crazy it would have been. So we're 3-0, right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're taking the patient approach. We're like, yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, you do your thing. You guys are smart. If we were 0-3, man, we would be having Twitter on fire.
Right.
Why did we draft Zaven Collins?
And we needed a quarterback, and dude. I mean, winning is the best deodorant, right? That's what they say, right? And it is. So yeah, man. So I shared this with you before the show, and anyone who hopefully follows my channel seeing this, but I'm going to share this. I was at the game, got this video of Kyler Murray's touchdown, but I want you all to enjoy this, because I want you to enjoy the salty Jaguars fans and just take it in and just enjoy the saltiness. All right, so this is from where I was sitting at the game yesterday. So yeah, anyway, it was awesome to get to see that play up close, and then when they were at the 1 yard line, I was like, oh man, I got to record this because there's a good chance something would happen. I'm glad I did, but anyway, like I was telling Mike before the show, I think that one guy was apparently trying to remind Kyler what number's on his jersey because he was showing him he's number 1. So. But man,
I don't understand why people get so salty. Like, I really don't. Like, honestly, like, we're not a team that like constantly wins. I don't know. Like, me personally, like if I was, I don't know, I handle these a lot different. I don't know. I gotta whatever.
Save it for someone in your division who's had your number, right?
Yeah. What did we do to you guys? We're finally hitting our stride. Let us have our thing. Let Kyler Murray celebrate. Whatever.
Who flips off Baby Yoda? I mean, it's Baby Yoda, right?
That's like slapping a teddy bear, man. What are you doing?
But I will tell you, most of the fans there were perfectly civil. But it was fun though. But Mike, I know we want to respect your time. How about we do one question, the first question with you, and then we'll let you dip, and then I'll do the Q&A. Jordan, and we're gonna we'll do the Q&A session now. So start getting your questions in there, and please, it's helpful if you put a Q at the front. But Jordan P's got a question. What do y'all think about the Cardinals most likely getting NFC Defensive Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week for the third week in a row? So do we think? I mean, I think the defensive player of the week's the more likely. Do you think
I was just gonna say that. I just wanted you to say it first. Yeah, I think the defensive player.
You wanted me to be the bad cop.
I wanted, yeah. I don't know about offensive. Like, I mean, maybe AJ Green if they got the up. I don't know. Maybe there might be other players. I haven't looked at any other stats and any other like teams and what they have done this last week, so I can't really speak. But hey, man, I would put my vote in Byron Murphy in a freaking heartbeat if I had a vote. I think defensive player of the week would probably be more feasible.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Byron Murphy's got a chance with those 2 INTs and 1 for a pick 6. I don't see anyone offensively who's done enough to get the offensive player of the week. I mean, I haven't looked at all the great performances, but I know there's some quarterbacks out there with 3 or 4 touchdowns. Oh, okay. He's asking this.
What do I think about it?
Oh, okay. So what he's saying, not that we'll have both, but how do we feel about the possibility that the Cardinals will have 1 player represented each of the 3 weeks? Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's amazing, man. Yeah. Hey, we're finally getting some respect, right? The Cardinals are finally getting the national, media looking at us. And I don't really care what they say about us, but it's cool. It's cool to finally see, Kyler Murray and all these commercials and to see, hey, that's my quarterback. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna let Mike dip. I know he's appreciate his time. He's got that baby girl who needs daddy and he needs his sleep when he can get it. So, yes, Mike, thanks for joining.
That's why. Sorry.
Yeah, but man, this is going to be a test this week, right, against the Rams.
Yes, sir.
This will tell us where the team's at. How good are they, right? That'll help us answer that last question. So, but Mike's going to dip out and Mike, we'll talk to you over the course of the week and we'll see you next week for next week's Cardinals Aftermath with the fan and the professor.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so very much. Peace out, guys.
All right, later. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of the comments and questions. Yeah, Kip, you messed up, bro. I will tell you, I posted that video and it's got a lot of views and I've had some, I have had some Jaguars fans comment on the video and say, yeah, that's not okay. That's not good. Didn't support it. So I do want to say for to give credit to some of those fans, some of the Jaguars fans have commented that's not cool. And, like I said, most of the people there were fine, but yeah. Yeah, that's what it used to be like watching Cardinals games in Neville Stadium. Yeah, really, for sure. All right. How has DJ Humphries played, in your opinion? He seems worse to me than last year. Yeah, he hasn't played as well, and he's graded not as well as he did last year. When you look at his, and I know not everyone buys into PFF grades, and I get that. I think they're still a reasonable metric, but his PFF grades have been down. He's grading, in the 60s, right, high 60s right now. Let's see, his PFF grade 67.7. He's not played as well, but he set a really high bar last year. He was the 4th highest graded tackle in the NFL and played really well. So yeah, he's not playing as well. It is early in the season, so we'll see. Hopefully he can do that, kind of up his performance. But I mean, again, it's early in the season, so but yeah, not quite as well. So, Paul, Jaguars fans were great to you in the club level. Yeah, folks in the club level are maybe a little better mood sometimes, but yeah. So, yeah. Let's see, half full with a lot of opposing fans. I'll tell you what, I took some pictures, and I'll probably put together a video with some of the other videos and pictures I took. Yeah, there were a lot of Cardinals fans, especially before the game, early on, before the game really got going. There were a lot of Cardinals fans there. So it was really great to see. Arizona Animal saying he should have double barreled that one. Do I see us beating the Rams this week? So we briefly talked about this earlier, and kind of my view on this is one of the things I talked about is until the Cardinals show us that they can beat Sean McVay, I am not going to pick them to win this the matchups against the Rams because they haven't shown they can do that yet. And maybe it's just a matter of principle for me. Until they show me they can do it, I'm not going to pick them. So my prediction is the Rams will win this week. But I think the Cardinals could win, obviously. When you have 2 good teams playing against each other, anything can happen. Anyone who says the Cardinals don't have a chance in hell to beat the Rams doesn't watch much football. Either that or they're just engaging in hyperbole, because you watch if you have two good teams that play, yes, the better team is going to win 7 out of 10 times or whatever. But things happen all the time, and good teams get beat by bad teams. And so, yes, the Cardinals they have an offensive that's explosive. They have a defense that can show up at times. Will they? I hope so, but I'm not predicting them to. Yeah. Let's see. Are you worried about both guards possibly being out versus Rams? I wouldn't say worried. I feel like we have some decent depth at guard. Like some of the guys we have in there are guys who have played starting minutes before, or starting snaps. They're not All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what in the world just happened. Hopefully y'all can still hear me and see me. It started kind of getting the message, or like it was disconnecting or something. Maybe I'm having a little bit of a connection issue. All right. Hopefully y'all can hear me still. Can y'all hear? Let me know. Someone just give me a yeah. We can hear you if you can hear me. I think it's working now. All right. So, okay. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay. So, worried. I mean, a little bit. I guess we should, right? With Aaron Donald on the inside, I think we have some decent depth at guard. Guys like Sean Harlow, Sean Harlow played well this game. He had a 79.1 PFF grade. He's a former 4th-round pick. We've got guys like Justin Murray, Max Garcia, who have experience playing as starters. So I think we have decent depth. So, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a concern, but I'm not going to put it as it's not my, I'm going to say my eyebrow is raised about that, but yeah, a little worried, but not overly worried. How about that? So let's see questions. Do the recent offensive line injuries concern you? So this is another fault. So yeah, so a little bit, but not. I'm not going to panic. I think we'll see, right? But I'm not freaking out about that. Definitely, it's not like it would be if we were, minus, obviously like a key player like Murray or Byron Murphy. But we'll see what happens, right? Yeah. Let's see. Other questions in here. What do we need to do in order to beat the Rams? That's a good question. What we need to do to beat the Rams is not come out flat. This team has shown that the offense can move the ball, the defense can shut, or slow down teams. But in the first half of the game against the Vikings and in the first half against the Jaguars, the team struggled. They came out a little bit flat. If this team plays the way they played in obviously the Tennessee game or the second half of the Vikings and the second half of the Jaguars game, they can beat the Rams. But if they come out flat, they're going to have a problem, right? So, yeah. Do you think the rib affected Hop during the game? That's a good question. I don't think so. I mean, if you look at it, he had that one play where he kind of ran across the, kind of the behind the line of scrimmage and got some yards, and they didn't throw it to him a lot, but when they threw it to him, if it was catchable, he seemed to catch it. And I just don't think he got a lot of targets. When you look at it, I don't think there was, and I'll look at his PFF, his snaps through PFF, but like when you look at DeAndre Hopkins this game, let's see, he had in this third game, of course, they're not showing his targets. Actually, I'll get that through another site. So DeAndre Hopkins in this game had he had 6 targets. He caught 3. Okay, so I don't know how many of those. I watched the whole replay. I don't remember if many of those were catchable. It felt like that one out of bounds wasn't really all that catchable, and I don't feel like they did, but maybe I'm wrong. So I don't know. So Martin thinks you're tired of the Rams. They have like an 8-game win streak. Yeah, I'm tired of that too, for sure. Right. So let's see. Target number for Rams games over 30 points. Last 7 times they scored 30 points on us, and we ever scored over 25 in them. We have 30 every game. So so hopefully we can do that, right? My prediction score. I'm going to predict. Remember, I can't until we beat the Rams. I'm going to predict them until we show we can beat Sean McVay. I'm going to pick the Rams to win. So I'm going to say 34-27. That Rams. Obviously, I hope we win. But that's what I'm going to. That's my prediction at this point. Is this a Marcus Golden jersey? It is. I bought a jersey to take with me to the game, and I love a lot of players in the Cardinals, and I don't know if I'd necessarily say Golden is my absolute favorite player on the Cardinals. I love Kyler Murray. Obviously, everyone loves Fitzgerald. I like a lot of players on this team, but I love the fact that Marcus Golden loves being a Cardinal. There's not another player on this team that I think is more appreciative of being a member of the Cardinals. So I appreciate that about him. So I wanted to pick a jersey that I'd be proud to wear 10, 20 years from now. And I'm always going to appreciate, the way Marcus Golden has been a fan of being, or, been excited about being a member of this team. Right. Yeah. I mean, not picking the Cardinals to win it's like being objectively, it's the smart move objectively until they show us they can. I want them to win. I think they can. Right. But yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing this up, Paul. That was crazy. When I was there at the game, I saw the muffed punt, by Rondale Moore, and I thought, oh man, Rondale messed this up. Come on, Rondale, what's up with that? We're big fans, but then I saw today, I saw like the video in slow motion that the ref's flag hit the ball and messed up its trajectory. So, in a way, that makes me feel better because Rondale Moore didn't mess it up, right? So that is encouraging that Rondale Moore didn't necessarily misplay the ball. It just at the last second, its trajectory was altered. Now there was a question: what do you do if they didn't recover the ball? What do the refs do? They probably just if the Jaguars had recovered the ball, I don't think they have anything in the rule book that allows them to kind of offset that. So that would have been really bad luck, right? What do you think Dennis Gardeck's role will be coming back? We didn't cover it. Thank you for asking, Kyle. I think his role coming back will be special teams, and they will bring him in sometimes on third downs for pass rushing. They have a lot of depth at pass rushing right now with, Marcus Golden, obviously Chandler Jones, and Devin Kennard has actually quietly played pretty well, more against the run than anything. But I think they'll bring him in once in a while for some pass rush snaps to try to take advantage of some things. But I don't think we'll see a lot of them when he's back. But so yeah, I mean, as I know he's a fan favorite, and I love what he brings. But I think he'll just get a few snaps. So. All right, let's see if there's anyone got questions here with cues in front of them. Okay. What do you think about Hicks getting the green dot over Collins? Do you agree that that's why Collins is getting limited snaps? Yeah, I mean, I think that Mike linebacker's like the quarterback of the defense, and I love Zaven Collins. I think he's talented. I think he's a smart football player, but he is a rookie, and I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. That that I think the reason he's getting more of the snaps is because Vance Joseph, despite what Steve Keim said about wanting Collins to start, Vance Joseph is making the decisions the way he sees fit, and I think he wants the veteran calling the defense, and so Hicks is getting a lot of the snaps, and then they're bringing Collins in. So, I think he's getting more of the plays because he's a veteran, and Vance Joseph wants that veteran kind of leadership and IQ in there. But over time, I think we're going to see more and more of Zaven Collins. I think his snaps are going to continue to increase over the season. So yeah. Am I going to watch the Phoenix Suns first game? Your season ticket holder, you're going to the game. Oh, that's going to be awesome, Lennon. I love the Suns. I am a huge Suns fan. I just focus on Cardinal stuff on my channel because I wanted to kind of keep it focused. But believe me, I've been a Suns fan since Tom Chambers, Kevin Johnson days, and so I follow the Suns. I don't get them on TV here very often, so when they're on, I watch them. Obviously, I watch every game of the playoffs. So it depends if they're going to be on TV here. Got some picks, 33-28 Rams. That's pretty close to where I picked. Yeah. Did Golden see me? I don't think he did. No, but I will tell you before the game, because I was like 5 rows up from the end zone there, and the Cardinals players were warming up on the end zone on my side of the stadium. So I went down there and I watched Chandler Jones doing his warm-ups. Dennis Gardick was out there just throwing and catching the ball with someone out there. And I waved at Chandler, and I think he waved back, and I might have got that in video. I got to check. I'm going to go through the videos I captured. But, I was watching him warm up. But Golden, I don't think he saw me. By the time he was out there, there were a lot of fans in the stands and stuff. But would have loved to have seen Golden for sure. Mark Jackson has Rams. Yeah, winning 33-23, probably. Yeah. Prater and Andy Lee are your favorite players. Okay, cool, man. I'll tell you, when I was walking up to the stadium, going through the parking lot, there's a couple cars pulled up there, and they were Cardinals fans, and all of them were wearing number 14 Lee jerseys. So I didn't stop and talk to them, but my bet was that they were either a family whose last name is Lee and just rallied around that, or they were related to him. So I don't know. Seattle Seahawks, more like Seattle Sea Fraud, San Francisco 49ers, more like the 41ers. I'll tell you what, Seahawks, are off struggling a bit. And, the 49ers, I will say this, and this may sound weird, but bear with me and hear me out on this. First 2 weeks, I was not impressed with the 49ers. They beat, they beat the Lions, who are not good, and they let them kind of get back into the game. And they beat the Eagles, who I didn't think are really good, and I still don't necessarily think they're good, although they've played reasonably well. And I was kind of down on the Niners. Like, I thought they were a little bit fraudulent, a 2-0 team. And I will say, even though they lost to the Packers, they played – they almost won that game, and they played, pretty well with what I think the Packers are a good team. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. So I actually think, believe it or not, weirdly enough, my opinion of the 49ers has gone up a little bit even after that loss than what it was before, because I didn't think they were a good team. I thought they were, beating bad teams. I still don't think – I think the Cardinals are better than 49ers, and right now it's looking like Cardinals are better than the Seahawks. I still have the Rams as the class of the division right now, though. You think Rams win because the refs have been against us last 2 weeks, and they will be again. Maybe. Did I see the fake penalty calls? Reffing? I don't know. I'll tell you, Jordan, when it comes to ref stuff, I know people get really frustrated with refs. I just never really go to the place of I never go with the refs are against us. Maybe sometimes that happens. I think refs make bad calls, but I think sometimes they make bad calls for both. I don't know. I never go to that as the explanation. Doesn't mean I'm right about that. Maybe I'm wrong, but so I didn't notice what I thought were, I don't know. I didn't. The calls didn't stand out to me. That's the best thing I can say on that. What are my thoughts on JJ Watt so far? Okay, I think JJ Watt has played relatively well. He has not played as well as as peak JJ Watt. He hasn't had any sacks, but I think he's done some things that aren't showing up in the box score, like that pick six, right? That Byron Murphy had. That was set up because of the pressure of JJ Watt. JJ Watt's made some good tackles in the running game. He's helped free up some things for Chandler Jones. I would like to see more from him, and I'd like to see him get some sacks and impact the game a little more, the box score. I know some people have been really down on him. I think he's made it. I think he has been, a good addition in terms of leadership and on the field. I'd like to see more from him. But overall, I think he's been decent. But I think he can be even better, right? 30-27 either team, right? Yeah, I mean, that's how it feels, right? Like these teams are going to be somewhere in that range, and one of them's going to win, and we don't know which one. Rams seem to be the favorite, and I don't disagree with that, but yeah, for sure. And again, help if you got questions that put the queue in, that helps having a queue in front of it. How do I feel about the running back duo? Do you think they're effective? Generally, yes. I think they're effective, and I like the combination. I think James Conner has been what we wanted him to be, that bigger running back who's good with the short yardage. He got those touchdowns. He's good at breaking tackles. That one-handed catch from Conner was actually pretty nice. And, he coming in, I knew he was a decent, receiving back. People think of him as the big first and second down back, but he can catch the ball too. And Chase Edmonds has been good. He's a little more shifty, and he's more the receiving back. But I think they complement each other well. And I will say my philosophy on how to build a team, like roster building, is that you focus on the offensive line, and then you bring in a stable of running backs that you can rotate in and out. And, and I am not a believer in drafting a running back in the first round, and I'm not a believer in paying big money. And you think about it, think of all the elite kind of top teams in the NFL right now, the contenders and the teams you think are going to be Super Bowl contenders. How many of them are paying big money to running backs, right? The teams with those early first round picks and high dollar running backs, there's a few of them that are competitive or looking like they might be competitive, but the teams like Tampa Bay and Kansas City, they drafted a first round running back, but they're not paying him big money at this point. It was at the end of the first round. And I like that they invested in bringing in Rodney Hudson. I would like them to invest a little more in the offensive line. I would say that, but I like that they have this duo that they're kind of rotating in. And if you have, if you get everything else right, decent running backs like this, guys that are drafted mid-round, guys like James Conner, Chase Edmonds can be really effective. And we've seen it in the division because that's what, Mike Shanahan has had really consistently good running games because he's got a good scheme for run blocking, and he has a good offensive line. And then he brings in, undrafted free agents. This year, he finally drafted a couple running backs, but he rotates those guys in. So, yeah, I like our running backs. I think we have a good set of them, and I feel good about if Eno Benjamin had to step in. If someone went down with an injury, I'd feel good about Eno Benjamin plus whoever is healthy. I feel pretty good about that. Let's see some questions. What do you think about the run defense? I think they've been picked on and are subject to having teams run over us. Yeah, the run defense has probably been the biggest weakness in our defense. But even it's been, week one, they shut down Derrick Henry. I mean, that's impressive. But then, they got gashed by, Dalvin Cook. This week, there were the run defense looked good at points, but then, Robinson kind of started getting some good runs on them. And They didn't give up a ton of running yards, but they still gave up a good bit and had a couple drives where the other team, could really, really stop or was able to get some really good or sustain a really good rushing attack. So the run defense is probably, to me, if there's a part of the defense that needs more consistency improvement, that's it. It's interesting. We were so worried about the cornerbacks, and overall they've held up pretty well, right? Do you think the rest will all pick play on Rams this week since they play a Rams whole offense? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, right? We'll see if they call that, right? And they called one of those on both teams yesterday. So, the Jags and the Cardinals both had one of those play calls. So, what do I think? I do think that refs kind of, when they go into a game, if they have a team that does something consistently, that's something to be a point of emphasis. I imagine refs probably talk about that before the game, so they'll probably be watching that. And if the Rams don't execute it right, and they kind of, I think they'll call it. We'll see, though, right? Yeah. So, the Henry 3 matter for the blind saying a rusty Henry. Henry was rusty. So, whether he was rusty or, I don't know. Yeah. Or if we really kind of did that, performed well. Should Kyler Murray play under center more? DeAndre move around more? This is an interesting question. Let me start with the DeAndre Hopkins thing. I think it would be nice for DeAndre Hopkins to move around, but here's the thing with this style of offense, they like to go in tempo. And one of the things about the air raid style, it's kind of a hybrid air raid that they're doing. One of the things about this style of offense is they don't do a lot of movement with receivers and one of the reasons they do that and they keep them kind of lined up where they normally, or certainly with DeAndre, one of the reasons they keep them kind of in the same spots a lot is so that players can line up quickly and they can get that tempo offense going. That's kind of a feature of this offense, is not moving those receivers out and not having a lot of pre-snap motion. They do a little bit sometimes, but not having a ton, so that they can play an up-tempo style offense. Now that's why they do it, in large part, why they don't move them around. Now, should they move around more? I don't necessarily think maybe a little bit. More than anything, what I want to see, and it does feel like they've done this a little bit, with DeAndre Hopkins, what I don't want to see, maybe it's better to say what I don't want to see. Last year, there were so many like hook routes, right? Or curl routes, where he just, and they just threw it to him on those hook routes or curl routes so much. And they didn't have him run a lot of routes that were going across the field, or the routes weren't very creative. So I don't know that I need to see them move Hopkins around as much as I like to see more diversity in the route tree that they're asking of him. I think you can keep the receivers lined up where they are, and just have a little more diversity in the types of play calling and route trees that they're running. But it does feel like they're doing that a little bit more this year, so we'll see. Kyler Murray under center, I think a little bit to mix it up. I don't necessarily think they need to do a ton of that because, this offense, does what it does. And I also think, and I don't mean this kind of to pile on, but with Kyler being a shorter quarterback, having him being able to stand upright and kind of watch things, read the defenses from an upright position before and from the shotgun, maybe gives Kyler a little bit more of a chance to read and offset. And he has struggled seeing the middle of the field some. That's been a little bit of an issue. So it might, but I think for certain plays, especially certain types of running plays and plays that have kind of jet sweep motion and various other types of motion plays, I think playing him under center, could be useful. But I don't know. I don't necessarily feel strongly that I need to see a lot of changes in those things, but it would be nice to mix things up a little bit. At least that's my opinion. Not that I'm a coach or anything. Can Isaiah have a big game against Rams? Of course he can. Will he? Right? Isaiah's looked really good. He's played really well, and I'm really happy with what we've seen from him. So absolutely he can, and hopefully he will. Especially, and maybe to get a little more specific and not just say, yeah, I think so and I hope so, but the Cardinals have played a lot of running teams, so teams that are heavy in the running game, right? Obviously the Rams Derrick Henry is the engine for that offense, and then and they build things around him. The Vikings, Dalvin Cook, right, and then a lot of play action pass, and the Jaguars aren't a good team, but the best thing they have going offensively right now is Robinson, and this is the first team we're going to be playing that is really a pass heavy team, and that really is relying on that passing game. And Isaiah Simmons as an inside linebacker he's really good in coverage. That's where he excels. So this is the kind of game with a team that is more of a passing team as opposed to a running team, where Isaiah Simmons could have a chance to shine because he is that pass defense kind of, pat coverage linebacker. So I could see it being a game where he could have a good game. Of course, it's also in the same breath, you have to say that's the kind of game where if he's not as good as if he's still struggling, or if he's not at the level we hope he's at, it's a game where he could get exposed by a good passing game. But yeah, I think for the style of offense, a passing offense, there's a chance, right? Thought experiment. Would you rather have J.J. Watt or Hassan Reddick? Ooh, this is an interesting one, right? Really great question. When you ask a question that makes me pause and think, makes someone pause and have to think about it, that's how you know it's a good question. I would say this, man, I love J.J. Watt, and I like what he's bringing to leadership. And that the tough part is we don't have he's adding something to the interior defensive line that we didn't really have before, like a really solid veteran presence who has star power. And that interior defensive line, if we didn't have JJ Watt, we would need someone else, because there's, we don't have a lot. We have a lot of younger players that are still not really proven there. And then Corey Peters, and with Hassan Reddick, man, he looks like he's a pass rusher in his prime who could, with 4.5 sacks this year already, who could be a solid pass rusher for years to come. So I guess there's part of me that would have to say Hassan Reddick from the long-term roster building perspective, that if we had him and we knew we could have him for the next 5 to 7 years to help this pass rush, and that would be very appealing. Right. So it's tough. Short term, I think J.J. Watt brings something important to this, so it's a tough question. But maybe Hassan Reddick. I mean, but man, it will. Part of me is hoping that J.J. Watt. Well, not just part of me. I hope J.J. Watt starts to contribute more, so that so that this isn't a tough question. Because if J.J. Watt can finish the season with 7 sacks, even if Hassan Reddick has 10 sacks or 12 sacks. Interior pressure is a little bit different. You get in the face of a guy and make him disrupt his throws. And interior pass rushers, with the exception of guys like Aaron Donald, don't always get as much sacks as the edge rushers, but they impact the game because they're getting in the face of that quarterback. So if Watt can get more pressure, get a few sacks, and get some more pressures, then it'll be a lot easier for me to say Watt in that situation. But with right now, maybe Reddick, and I feel bad about saying that, but still, I'm glad we have Watt. I wish we could have both, right? Yeah, and Mark Jackson's is making a point. Watt's a great leader. Reddick's a great player, but those are both important. I do think Watt's still a really good player, and I think we'll see better. I think he's going to play better. But yeah, that's a good question, man. That's a tough one, right? Do I think Marco Wilson? Well, do I think I'm guessing you're asking, do I think he'll play and do well against the Rams? I think he'll play. I mean, he played this last game, and I think, he's been decent. He hasn't, he hasn't graded exceptionally well, but he hasn't been, he played 68 snaps, grade 51.8, but he hasn't been totally burnt, or exposed. He's given up, in terms of yards, let's see. He gave up in the first game, he gave up 46 yards. I gave up 12 yards on 2 receptions. The second game, 44 yards. So he's played well. I don't know. I mean, maybe though, if he's the rookie, so if they're gonna try to pick on a corner, he's the one they're gonna try to pick on, and the Rams are a good team, so we'll see, right? How would you stop Kyler Murray? Right? Yeah, that's a great question. It seems like, I mean, it does seem like that that some teams last year were able to put some pressure on the edges. It feels like if you try to bring pressure at him up the middle, he sees that he kind of gets that, and then he rolls out, and then he makes something happen. I guess if I were going to try to stop him here, what I would do is probably, I would try to generate some pressure up the middle, but I would make sure I had some contain on the outside so that when he rolls out, he's not getting a free reign. But it's tough because then he throws it, then he finds someone deep, open. So what I wouldn't do based on what we've seen the first couple weeks is I would not go with cover zero blitz, because both of those long throws to Christian Kirk was when he saw that coming. So that's and I'm glad that is a tough question to answer, right? Because it's tough because you get him out there and he makes those plays like Russell Wilson used to make, except he moves even better than Russell Wilson ever did, I think. So, but it does seem like some teams got some pressure in his face, but from the edges last year, he was certainly injured later in the season, but that's a tough one. Maybe, I don't know. That's a good question. Are the Cardinals directly responsible for Vikings win and Seahawks loss? I say yes. Maybe. Hey, I'll take that, right? I'm glad to see that. I am glad to see, obviously, the Vikings beat Seattle on two levels. On one level, it is a loss in our division, and on the second level, it means, that the team we beat in Minnesota, is a better team than people thought they were. Because remember, coming in, they had lost to the Bengals in overtime, and everyone, and the Cardinals were going up against the Vikings, and people thought, oh man, this Vikings team is just kind of okay. They lost to the Bengals. We beat them in the fashion we did. But as it turns out, I'm not necessarily going to go so far as to say that the Bengals are good yet. But, the Bengals are 2-1. They beat the Steelers, and the Vikings lost to the Bears. And the Vikings, beats the Seahawks. So, when you go into the season, it's hard to know who the good teams are and who the bad teams are. And you want to see your team beat good teams. And as things shift and shape out, or as the dust settles and we start to see who's competitive and more and less competitive, the fact that we beat the Vikings and the Vikings turn around and beat Seattle is a good sign, that maybe this game that we barely won by a missed field goal was against actually a team that's pretty damn good, right? That's what you're hoping for. So we'll see, right? And there's an animal saying kind of the same thing. Yeah, I'll tell you, coming out of that game, I came out thinking, this Vikings team, the defense is a little suspect, but that offense is pretty good, right? Did Prater trick kick into field goal wearing Justin Tucker jersey on the? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. That missed kick was, that was rough, and then they returned that, man. We will see how to stop Kyler Murray and Rams game. I mean, listen, they might figure, if there's a team that's going to figure it out, right? Maybe the Rams. So not a question. Marco Wilson, I don't know, man. I know he's had some mistakes, but I'm not going to comment on something like that myself. But I know some of the questions about him were decision making, right? So okay, let's see. Daniel is saying they're going to be 4-0. I hope so, man. I hope so. Who is not happy? I don't know. Who's not happy? I'm happy. Cardinals won, right? All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? We've gone about an hour, and I've been trying to get through all the questions. We'll take, if you got a question, get it in there now. We'll take maybe another minute. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. But man, 3-0. is nice. It's nice being able to talk Cardinals after a win. This next week is a big test, the biggest test of the season against a Rams team that just beat Tampa Bay. And I think, man, I still think Tampa Bay still could be the team that represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. So that Rams team beating Tampa Bay is a good, shows how good they are. But we'll see. Hey, Mark, thank you for being here. Appreciate how involved you are in the chats and in the Discord server. Appreciate that. Anything under 70, we're saying Prater on the field. Am I right? Man, well, I don't know. After that one he missed, I don't know. But I'll tell you, it depends on the situation, right? But it's nice to feel confident in your kicker, right? So for sure. It's still early, but Kirk and Green is coming to a contract year. Would you extend either of them? Okay. I know this is frustrating, but the most accurate answer to most questions like this is it depends. So here's what I say. If Kirk continues to play like he is, yes, I'm signing Kirk to an extension, and I'm keeping him in the slot with Rondale Moore. I'm keeping those two and figuring we've got this great, and the Cardinals run a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, so you got room for both of them a lot of the time. They're finding ways to keep both of them on the field. So yes, I sign Kirk to an extension unless the dollar figure is really, really crazy, But if he keeps playing this well, man, you want to keep him. You want to try to keep him. Green, if he continues to play the way he is right now, I like him in that role on the outside. He's not going to be the number one receiver, and his numbers aren't going to be crazy out of this world, but they're going to be decent. He might get 600 to 700 yards, have some nice plays. If they can get Green on a budget, like on a discount where they're not having to break the bank with a veteran like him, you might be able to do that. I like him in that outside role. I like him across from Hopkins, and then I like the receivers they have right now. The way they've kind of got the right players in the right spots. So I would try to extend them both. I'm not paying a lot for Green. I like Green, but but I'm not going to overpay for him because if he's demanding too much, then I'm going to try to find someone else, a big receiver for that side role. But Kirk is the guy I would prioritize based on the way he's played. Again, we'll see how it plays out, right? As you say, it's still early. But if I would say this, if it continues the way it is going now, Kirk is going to be. There's going to be some big contract offers. So I don't know if we'll be able to afford him if he keeps playing this way, but I would try. Over under number of sacks for Jones versus the Bears, I got 5. Man, well, going into the Vikings game, we thought there were going to be a ton of sacks because their offensive line wasn't great and he had none. Sacks are really kind of fluky and sporadic, and the best players still get more than other players, but the over-under is going to be, for me, on probably most games, is 1.5. Is he going to get 1 or 2? He'll occasionally have a game with more like he did, but for me, it's 1.5. Over or under, do I go over under that? I hate to say this, but I'm going to probably, if I'm just trying to be smart and rational and logical, and I'm going to go under. Because you think about it, 1 sack a game is 17 sacks, right? And he can get that, but he's already got a 5-sack game, and he's had no sacks last couple of games. So, for me, I'm for most games I'm gonna probably predict 1 sack. But yeah. Why haven't we seen Andy Isabella? It's concerning. We could have traded him. I don't know that we would have got much for him, and I think they like having him in depth. And the reason we haven't seen him is he plays the outside receiver role, and Green and Hopkins have been playing that, and we don't play 5 receiver sets very often. If we do, usually it's more like a tight end or running back out there, kind of moving them out there. It's an empty backfield, really, basically. So. Yeah, I just think when they're playing those 4 receivers on the field, he's the odd man out. And until there's an injury, we're not going to see him. But I don't think, man, I just don't think we're going to get a lot for him, honestly. And I think it's better to have him. I'd kind of rather have him on the team. And hell, you wonder the question about whether we extend Green or Kirk. If Green walks away, I know Isabella's much smaller, but he is more of an outside receiver, so it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility to see that in 2022 your receivers are Hopkins on one side, Isabella on the other, and then your slot receivers are Kirk and more. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got another year next year on his rookie contract. So I think there's a reasonable chance we'll see more Isabella next year. But unless someone gets injured, I don't think we're going to see a lot of them this year. Score predictions for this weekend. Yeah, so we touched on that earlier, and I think my prediction was like 34-27, and I'm predicting the Rams just because, until the Cardinals show me they can beat Sean McVay, I'm going to pick the Rams as the team that's going to win. But yeah, Fields got sacked 9 times. Yeah, I heard he had a really rough game. So I don't know. Maybe Jones does get 2 or 3. Again, going into that Vikings game, we thought he was going to get a lot, and he didn't, right? So, yeah. Collins struggled. I know these 2 players were Buda and Murphy saved Collins from the 10 beating him. Okay. Maybe, yeah, I'd have to look at that closer. Isabel absolutely is not starting first next year. We'll re-sign AJ and get someone else, and he sucks. Hey, maybe you're right. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that's not, I said it's in the realm of possibility, right? I'm not saying I'm necessarily predicting that, but I mean, at the same time, I could see a scenario where they're like, where they're going to go with him and see what happens. But, a lot of people didn't think there's players that a lot of people thought wouldn't be starting for us this year either. Like, people didn't expect Robert Alford to be back and to be healthy and playing. He's played reasonably well. And, people expected us to do something more at, tight end, and it's Max Williams, so I don't know. But I mean, if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet that he is a starter, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, but we'll see. Kyler's starting center is more probable than any being outside receiver. Yeah. Sorry, Kyler's starting at C. Yeah. Listen, I mean, again, I'm not predicting that, but I don't know what happens if. Here's the thing you have to look at too, though. With that is, they're going to have to sign Kyler an extension. There's guys that are going to need to be paid, so they might not be able to keep everyone. And sometimes you have to, you have to go with some of the guys that you have on your roster and give them the chance because you don't have the money to pay for someone else. But yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for Andy Isabel. I think he does need I think he needs a chance. He needs a fresh start somewhere else. I think that would be the best thing for him. So we'll see what happens. And he's too fast for his own, maybe a push. I don't know. I think some of the issue with him, is Kyler had a hard time, kind of connecting with him in terms of throwing the ball when he needed to throw it, because you have to kind of throw it pretty quickly with him. And I don't know. One of these days I might do a deeper dive at looking at, Isabella's snaps just to kind of figure out what was going on. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think of the Wildcat? Is it even needed with Kyler? Yeah, I've never been a big Wildcat person. I think, you mix it in a little bit, sure, but I'd rather, I don't know. I think sometimes you get a little too tricky. And yeah, with Kyler, if you do the Wildcat, it's like, it's a running play. And so I'm a little weird. That's maybe one of the reasons I don't like it, because I like the option better than a Wildcat, like a true option where at least there's still some variability. I wouldn't run that with a guy like Kyler, because Kyler in some ways is better. I mean, you maybe rather have Kyler doing the running than that, right? Yeah, I mean, Wesley's that big receiver, so maybe if we didn't address, so I'm not going to die on the hill of Andy as again, I presented it as in the realm of possibility, right? So don't try to nail me like that was a big prediction of mine, but I do, I think Andy's going to be on this roster probably until the end of his rookie deal. That's what I think, because even if they don't play him, A rookie deal is pretty affordable deal, and he's still. I know people are hating on Andy, but Andy Isabella is probably, as the 5th or 6th receiver, is probably better than the 5th or 6th receiver on most teams, even as much as he struggled. And I know some people won't agree with me, but that's okay. But I think if you ask me what do you really think is going to happen with Andy Isabella, predict the future of his, the next whatever years, my prediction would be he's on the Cardinals this year, he's on the Cardinals next year on that rookie deal, and then they let him go as a free agent and he signs somewhere else and maybe makes it as a starting receiver somewhere, maybe doesn't, but it's probably not going to be here. Question, thoughts, Kyler ranks 30 NFL, passing sets, Matt Stafford is 5th. So, yeah, and obviously it depends on what, kind of which rate, how, what we mean by, how we're rating that. Like in terms of, and I'm bringing it up right now, in terms of like yards, Kyler Murray is 3rd and Stafford is 5th, right? In terms of touchdowns, though, Stafford is ahead of Kyler, and then there's, when you look at, QBR, quarterback rating, Stafford is number 1 in ESPN's total QBR, and he's number 2 in rating. So, and then, obviously PFF has their grade. So, but yards, Kyler is 3rd, but he's also, he's got more interceptions than Stafford too. So, but Kyler has been great. Stafford has been really good. Stafford has, only one. He's got 9 touchdowns to 1 interception, whereas Kyler's got 7 to 4. So, so yardage wise, yeah, but in the other stats, depending, how it is. So you can pick this. Anyone can pick the stats to tell the story they want to pick. And as Cardinals fans, we could pick certain stats to talk about why Kyler's better. And Rams fans have the stats they're going to pick about why they say he's better. And both have been really good. I think Kyler's been more dynamic. He's been really great off schedule. Stafford has been better kind of on schedule, playing within the system. And they've both been really good. And they're both, leading 3-0 teams, right? Let's see if there's any questions. All right. So I think I'm going to, and then Kyler's completion percent has been really good. So, that's for sure. Okay. Stafford's, I haven't watched all of his games, or I haven't really watched any of Stafford's games. So Stafford's been lucky because he had multiple picks dropped. Okay. And so that's a fair point. I'd have to look at that more closely, but all right, I'm going to end on this last question or two. There's 2 questions here. Let me hit the first one really quick. Who is the number? Is that? I think that's Wesley, isn't 884? Let me just double check. Antoine Wesley. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Wide receiver number 84. Yep, Antoine Wesley. He is a 2nd-year player out of Texas Tech. So he's he's one of those outside wide receivers, right? Yeah, I think. Paul, thank you for being here again. It was really great to meet you and Zeke at the game. And let me hit on this one last question here. Does Jalen Ramsey playing more in the slot as a star defender this year help DeAndre get open more? So I'm, that's interesting because I'm not sure. I wonder if they're going to play, how they're going to play Ramsey, against the Cardinals. I mean, they have good quarterbacks all around, so maybe it does. If they play him in the slot, you would figure that's going to kind of put the clamps a little bit more on Kirk and Rondale Moore, and then maybe they go outside more. But it'll be interesting to see if that's what they do. Wherever Jalen Ramsey plays, he's impacting the game. He is, that's the thing about the Rams on defense. They have these 2 rare players who are the best. Donald is the best at his position, maybe the best player in football, at least certainly on the defensive side. And then Ramsey is arguably the best cornerback. And that's when you have that really helps your defense a lot. So if they're playing him in the slot more, which I haven't really looked at that, then, yeah, I would expect that to probably impact and maybe make Hopkins kind of get, open him up to get more targets. We'll see, right? Yeah. Well, hey, everyone, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate all the support, everyone coming to the stream and all the questions and comments, and everyone for being a subscriber. Thank you all for being here. If I didn't say hey to you, let's see, I've got CB here, didn't say anything to you or didn't shout out to you yet, so thanks for being here. If I missed you, oh, we got little Indo. Thank you for being here. So we will see you all next time. And here's hoping the Cardinals can pull off an upset this week. So everyone have a great week. We'll see you next time.